Ahoy there! Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another ship fitting guide for EVE Echoes. This time around I've once again left my destroyers and my Minmatar ships behind, and I'm docked instead in a Gallente Vexor, which is a drone cruiser. So we're going to have a look at fitting this bad boy out, see what it can do, and just talk about some of the skills and that you may want to go if you're going up from something like a Gallente Algos into a Vexor. Before we jump in, if you are enjoying these videos, please do let me know with a thumbs up on the video, subscribing if you haven't already, sharing it to your friends is super helpful too, and otherwise just let me know what you enjoy about these videos, what you want to see in future content, either in the comment section down below, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Discord, on Instagram, or indeed in-game. I'm loving coming into game these days and finding that you guys have been sending me messages while I've been asleep, and it's just a great way to... I love hearing from it. It makes me super happy in the mornings. Keep it up. Anyway, all that said and done, let's have a look at the Vexor. This, as I said, is a Gallente cruiser, meaning it's a medium-sized ship, and it is a combat-style cruiser. So let's have a look at what this ship can do and how I would recommend fitting it. First of all, then, looking at the information page. Of course, you can see straight away that with 4 drone tubes that this is a drone boat. We then have 2 mid slots, 4 low slots, 3 power grid rigs, and 3 mechanical rigs. Skill-wise, for Cruiser Command, we get plus 5% armor hit points for every level in Cruiser Command, and for every point in Medium Drone Operation, we get an additional 10% drone damage and 10% drone hit points for medium drones. Medium drones only. Just as something that people keep asking me here, does this stack beyond medium drone operation if you go into advanced medium drone operation? No. That additional 10% will only count from medium drone operation, which can max out at level 5, so you'll at most get 50% medium drone damage and 50% medium drone hit points. If you then go into advanced medium drone operation, you'll get the bonuses from the advanced medium drone skill, but it will not apply these additional bonuses on the ship here. Same if you go into advanced cruiser command points will not give you additional armor hit points by that skill. Now, for overall defense on a Vexor, 6,322 is a fairly solid starting amount for a cruiser. Its inertia modifier and flight velocity and warp speed do mean that it's a fairly sluggish ship. It's not the slowest cruiser by any stretch, but it's certainly not the fastest either. Power grid output is massive, decent amount of maximum locked targets, and that signature radius of 145 isn't actually as huge as some of the other cruisers either, so it's a fairly small ship. Armor resistances we'll go into over here later on. Now let's have a look at the defense first of all. I say later on, we're going to do it right away. We have a shield of 1400 HP with somewhat decent thermal resistance, good kinetic and explosive resistance, as you would expect from shields. In its armor, it is of course the other way around, much higher at 2812, very good electromagnetic and thermal resistance, slightly weaker on the kinetic and explosive, but it does have resistances to all 4, and then finally 2000 hit points on the structure, if you ever should let it get down that far, which you shouldn't. Now, for offensive power, of course, this is a drone boat. You're not going to see turrets or missiles really on this ship. I have equipped mine straight up and down with Federation Navy hammerheads, just because they were what I had handy, or rather, what were in the station that I picked the Vexor up in. Yes, you can put things like your Mark V warriors, can go into the drone bay, and you can actually fire those from the tubes as well. If I wanted to, I can put Mark V warriors up here, which isn't necessarily a bad idea in fairness, as it does mean that you can launch those against targets that your mediums might struggle against. This is one of the advantages of drone boats with how the drone launchers work. If you go into a combat situation and you find that the particular drones that you have in your launch tubes aren't quite good enough for taking, they're not fast enough for taking out your ships, or you've got small drones in there and you're trying to take out cruisers, you can swap in heavier drones. If you've got the medium drones in there and you're trying to take out frigates that are fast moving, you can swap down to things like your warriors, your small drones. So it's always worth just popping as many drones as you can into the drone bay, just so you can always use those later on. Anyway, so that's our high slots. For our medium slots, I've ultimately just kind of gone with a couple of bits and pieces. We really want to keep range, so it doesn't overly matter on any of these. The interruptive stasis web of fire is just in case anything gets too close and I'm struggling to hit it with my drones. I can slow it down. And so those drones can do a bit of extra damage. And I've got a ditch medium energy neutralizer, just again, in case anything gets too close to me, I can shut it down whilst my drones do their job. The idea here is I'm going to send my drones out, and then I'm going to try and pull back to safety myself. Now, for the low slots, things here aren't quite as good as I'd like them to be. I'm just going to show you guys quickly that my wallet, yeah, that's, wow. That's terrible at the moment. This is how little money I have because I'm buying all these things to showcase it all off to you guys. I wouldn't recommend putting in a civilian medium armor repairer, but civilian is the only one I had access to. Certainly I would look for something at least like a Mark V, because the jump from civilian to Mark V alone is huge, but ultimately something like, I do have some of the, like the Mark VII small armor repairers and stuff like that, but a Mark VII small isn't as good as a civilian medium, as stupid as that sounds. But yeah, upgrade that. I don't recommend having a civilian medium armor repairer, I recommend having at least a Mark V, I just didn't have the money for it. Now I've also got in here a 10 meganewton afterburner, a Mark VII, ultimately just to again allow me to keep that range a little bit better without blasting my power grid apart too much like a micro warp drive would. It's just to allow me to navigate around the fields and keep myself at that little bit of extra range. Now my final two low slots here are of course a drone navigation computer, and, when it loads, a drone damage amplifier. Now the drone damage amplifier you should all be fairly familiar with if you've watched my video on using the Algos destroyer, which is a drone boat itself. It's a small drone boat. You'll see I use a Mark VII drone damage amplifier there, just to up the damage that my drones do. Of course, the second one here is the Mark V drone navigation computer. Similar sort of thing, it's just upping the flight velocity bonus on my on those drones so they can get into combat a little bit faster and they can orbit and hit faster moving targets, kind of as you'd expect from drones. Now rigs on drone ships are a little bit unusual. I don't have any, of course, because they're super expensive and I'm broke. But if we go into the market, we can have a look at the different types of power grid rigs that you could put on. Now the drone rigs here, you'll see, these are very interesting. First of all, we have sentry damage augmenters. That only works on sentry drones. Sentry drones are kind of like little turrets that you just pop into space, and they don't move, they don't do their own thing, which means they're kind of crappy outside of fleet engagements. I don't really recommend much with them. The drone scope chip, is accuracy fall-off adjustment for your drones. It's kind of, again, it can be useful, but it's not as useful as some of the others. If your drones are getting up close and personal anyway, that accuracy fall-off isn't huge. It's probably the only one of these that I would equip. The drone speed augmenter, again, it's about getting your drones into combat space and firing faster. Again, you might want to equip that. And drone control augmenter, it's only an additional 5 kilometers of drone control. Yeah, ultimately there is the argument to be made that obviously the further away you can be from your drones with them still operating, the safer you're going to be in combat. You can just kind of launch your drones and then pull away to safety. But I don't know, I kind of find the drone rigs really underwhelming compared to the others. You might want a scope chip, you might want a speed augmenter, you might want a control range augmenter, but ultimately they're all kind of useful, but try it and see how you get. The control range is the one I would mainly go for, and that's for one simple reason. Drone boats are freaking broken in PvE right now, because PvE ships, if you're out ratting or doing encounters, they don't shoot at drones. Currently, at point of me making this video, PVE rats do not shoot at drones. If that changes, people are going to shout at me in the comment section down below, but as it currently stands, they do not shoot drones, meaning you can launch your drones at an enemy ship, pull back to safety, and your drones just keep damaging them till they die. Thus, of course, we come to defensive rigs. Now, we've mentioned that this is a armor boat, so of course the armor fittings are the ones we're going to look at. Nanobot accelerator we could do, that's your armor repairer repairs quicker. The nanopump, auxiliary nanopump, means your armor repairers do additional repair. The remote repair augmenter reduces the cost adjustment for them, so you when it actually does it, you know, you're using less capacitor. And of course the Trimark armor pump is just an additional flat bonus to your armor. That's always one that I like to have on, just because more armor is always a better thing. Of course, anti-explosive, anti-EM, anti-kinetic, and anti-thermal, if you really want to up the amount of, like, the resistance to a particular type. Like this particular boat, as we saw, it's kind of weak to explosive, so I could put an anti-explosive pump on here to get an additional 30%, what's the word I'm looking for? Absorption for explosive damage. Sorry, I know that was a lot of nah there for me. My brain went completely dead for a second. It does this from time to time. So ultimately, what I'm trying to get at here is that the drone rigs I find a little bit underwhelming. If anything, I would go for the drone control range, maybe the speed, but I'd look at the defensive rigs as something to put in there more if you want to do those. Mechanical rigs, again, it's the same kind of thing. Navigation rigs are going to be your main thing. Have a look down those. You decide what you think is going to fit best for how you play your ships. Now, ultimately, that is the loadout on this particular Vexor. Again, when it comes to skills, of course, if you're using a Vexor, then medium drone operation and cruiser command are going to give you direct benefits to the ship itself, but of course, being a drone boat, using any of the drone skills is going to be useful as it stands. So if I go into drones, of course, medium drone operation is going to be the first one you want to get up because it affects your boat as well, the Vexor, but it does that medium drone damage, medium drone tracking speed, and the optimal range. From there, we can also look at things like medium drone upgrade, which give you you make your drones deal more damage and more accuracy fall off. And then further down as well, we have things like the drone skill, drone control number, drone control range. As you can see here, I currently have the ability to control 4 sets of drones, which on a Vexor is enough. I believe that should be at 4. I haven't tested this, but because I'm sure you can use 1 as standard, and then that +3 takes it to 4. Otherwise, you're going to need to start going into things like advanced drone if you want to up your drone HP and all of that as well there. There are other things, of course, that you can look into. Engineering, of course, cruiser engineering if your power grid's not quite supporting you enough. Armor operation, armor hardening, that kind of thing. For this particular boat, armor operation is the one that you'd want, just because it means those armor repairers are going to go quicker, especially since it's only a civilian one. And of course, cruiser command there too. And that kind of covers everything for the skills and for using this boat. So I'm going to undock it, I'm going to move across to a combat encounter, then we're going to come back and have a look at how this actually operates in space. I'm pulling up at the attack site now for Communication Jammer Searched Advanced, and we're going to see how this boat does in action. So let's open the overview, move across to nearby, lock onto our targets once we finish warping, and then I'll show you how I mean with drone boating. It's very, very simple, very straightforward. We lock, we're going to launch all 4 of our drones, wait until all 4 have launched. Once all 4 have launched, we lock them onto our target. And now I'm going to literally pick a target, pick one of these guys, orbit it from 30 kilometers, and then put my damage boosters on. Now watch as we pull away to a nice safe distance, while our drones do all the fighting for us. It's astonishing, really. In fact, we can boost away that little bit faster if needs be, just to get some distance here between us and these particular ships. And you'll see that my drones are quite happy there, whizzing round in the background, doing their own little thing. I'm not really taking much damage. I'm a little bit closer than I'd like to be, but when the next wave spawns, I should be further away from them. I've moved towards that slasher. Whoops. Let's orbit away from it. Again, we've got the afterburner, just putting some distance between us and there. And my drones are going to move in and start stripping that of its shields and its armor. There goes its armor, into structure, munch that structure, and it's blown up. Now, of course, we're going to get the second wave appear now. You'll see they're a lot further away at 30 kilometers already, so I can quite happily stay here, retarget my drones once they lock on. 2, 3, 4. There we are. My drones are now all going to move into combat range for these particular ships, and I can just pop on my damage amplifiers once they're in combat there. You see, I'm being shot at, but nothing's actually hitting me because I'm too far out of range. I can just wait for my drones to get into combat. There they are. There goes the drones, have just hit whichever ship that is, the Gisty Tulwar. And they're just going to rip it to shreds. This is with the medium drones. It's, you know, again, it's not necessarily the fastest. I know my Dramiel can rip these apart faster, but the Dramiel requires so much more effort. I have to sit there and manually pick my targets to approach and all this kind of thing. I can turn the turn the afterburner off now. I have to manually pick my targets and keep approaching them to get in range and orbiting around. I take a bit of damage, I have to put my shield repairers and all that on, shield boosters. Here I'm just sitting. You can see I'm literally not moving. I'm being shot at, but everything's missing, and my drones are just picking them off one by one by one. There go my drones again. Move on to their next target. And they're just going to rip it to shreds. I mean, there goes all of the shield, most of the armor. The next bit of armor is going to chop down in just a moment. This is just the Federation Navy hammerheads, and they're doing their thing. They're doing their thing. There's another one dead. There we are. They retarget onto that 47. I'm going to use the drone damage amplifier again. You see, I don't need to use my armor repairer. You see, I don't even need to use my stasis webifier or energy neutralizer. I'm far enough away that ultimately my drones are just doing the job for me. I just put the damage amplifier and the speed and that on them whenever I need to. Otherwise, I'm not getting hit. The ships aren't even bothering to target at my drones. And there we are. How simple was that? As I'm sitting here passively, my shield, the little bit of shield damage that I took on the way in, is now getting repaired, just passively recharging. That simple, and that is why drones right now are so blasted useful. Yeah, okay, people are talking about similar with the Caracal, that the Caracal, obviously, you can go, if you go watching Scoundrel's video on that, you can go ratting just by literally putting those, by hitting your targets, putting on, like, long-range missiles, keeping your distance, kiting everything, and letting your missiles just outrange everyone. You can pretty much do the same with the drones. It's quite insane. There we are, my drones are now back in the ship, and that's the mission complete. Awesome. I can now go on to my next mission. I can jump towards that and start doing the same thing, not even having to worry about heading back to station to repair or anything. Well, anyway, that does showcase everything I wanted to showcase about the Vexor. Certainly, if you're enjoying drones, then the Gallente Vexor is by far the best ship to upgrade to when you start talking about cruisers. If I go into the Gallente Federation ship tree briefly, just to talk about the others, the other Vexors, of course, there is also the Vexor training. The trainer only has 3 drone tubes rather than 4. It's a lot cheaper, it doesn't do as much damage, but it's a great way of just starting off with a cruiser if you need something that's got a bit more hit points than your Algos or whatever destroyer you've been using. The Vexor trainer is a cheap way to upgrade. I'm not sure if the Vexor trainer is actually the one you get from the Gallente tutorials. Certainly nowadays, if you go through the tutorials, you are getting cruisers during those trainer cruisers. The Minmatar ones, for example, I know you get a stabber trainer and a rupture trainer. I don't know about the Gallente one, considering that the Vexor is the first cruiser on the tree. I'd imagine it is that one, but someone can let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, beyond that, we have the Vexor Navy issue, which is as good as the standard Vexor on its loadouts. You've still got the 4 lows, 3 mids, and 4 highs for drones, but you've also then got additional bonuses to medium drone damage and hit points, and scan resolution and sensor strength as well, so that can be a great little upgrade, just as one to go to. I've got to say as well, it's certainly got an interesting colour. I'm not sure what they're camouflaging to when they're in space, but hey, you know what? It looks cool. This ship as well, the Vexor, I don't know, that little bit in the middle there looks like where you'd put a trigger. This to me looks like some kind of... It reminds me, if you've ever played Halo, it reminds me of the Needler, but once it's run out of ammo. Anyway, on that note, folks, that is everything I wanted to say about the Vexor, fitting yours and where to upgrade. Certainly look at going up into the Vexor Navy issue if you like it. Do start with the trainer if you're not sure, but certainly the standard Vexor is going to keep you going for a long time. Anyways, hope you enjoy your Vexor. Let me know how you get on with it. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.